presents Game 4 of the 1983 National League Championship Series. Tonight from Veterans Stadium, it's the Los Angeles Dodgers versus the Philadelphia Phillies. Brought to you by Ford and your Ford dealer. Have you driven a Ford lately? By light beer from Miller, everything you've always wanted in a beer and less. By Gillette, makers of the Good News disposable razor with 2 blades. And by the Ask For Motor Oil, Pennzoil, protection worth asking for. This is the eye of the storm. Veterans Stadium in Philadelphia. The Dodgers, battling for their collective lives, are down 2 games to 1 in this best 3 out of 5 National League Championship Series. Hi, everybody. Once again, Vin Scully along with Joe Garagiola. Joe, the most important sentence of the night. Every team that has scored once and first has won a game, both in the National and the American League Championship Series. So it's paramount, apparently, to get on the scoreboard first.
That it is, but I'll tell you, these fans here, they've already started Beat L.A. They are the 10th man for the Phillies.
In one of the Philadelphia newspapers today, the headline was, Beat L.A., Beat L.A., Beat L.A. That sums it up here. And with that, let's go to Dan Baker, the public address announcer at Veterans Stadium.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, please stand and honor America as Maura McKinney sings our national anthem.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the brave and the home of the
Maura McKinney singing the national anthem, and the city of Philadelphia going wild as we're just minutes away from the opening pitch of Game 4 of the National League Championship Series. Game 4 of the National League Championship Series. What you are seeing is not a declaration of independence, but more a declaration of allegiance, as the city of Philadelphia, celebrating its 100th anniversary of having the Philadelphia Phillies. Until 1976, they had only 2 winners, in 1915 and 1950. But now the Phils have been first 5 times in the last 8 years. The Dodgers, a very successful franchise, have won 5 divisional titles since 1974. The lineup tonight struggling to stay alive. Steve Sachs at second base. Bill Russell will be the shortstop, the veteran of the ball club. And here is the dramatic switch for Tommy Lasorda. He has his cleanup man, Pedro Guerrero, hitting third tonight, and then Dusty Baker hitting back of him, followed by... The Dodgers know they will have their hands full with left-handed Carlton. Carlton, fresh from beating them, of course, was 0-2 against the Dodgers during the regular year, a 15-game winner. He is 5-5 in postseason starts. You'd have to go way back to 1967 in the World Series when he lost as a starter for the St. Louis Cardinals. And in looking at his work this year, he has gone over 9 innings once. He has had a 3-inning outing. His most strikeouts 12, and he did that 3 times. And of course, the only pitcher in history to win 4 Cy Young Awards. The only pitcher on a last place team to win a Cy Young Award. And ironically, he did that in 1972, again, when Paul Owens came out of the office from behind his desk to replace Frank Lucchese, and he won 27 of the Phil's 59 games that year.
There are a couple of things to keep in mind in addition to his stuff. He does throw that tight slider, which looks like a fastball, breaks straight down. Then that's his strikeout slider. He has a real good slider to go along with that one. But the things to keep in mind is his concentration. He thinks in and out is much more important than up and down, and he has a tremendous move. And if you remember, he picked off Steve Sachs in that first game, which is very important. Indeed it is. Sachs has been aboard a few times. He is 3 for 11 in the series with a stolen base. So Sachs followed by Bill Russell, and then Pedro Guerrero hitting in the number 3 slot. That's right. That's Big Lee Wire, the plate umpire. Doug Harvey at first, Jerry Crawford at second, Terry Tate at third, Dick Stello on the left field foul line, and John McSherry on the right field foul line. 0-1. And that's whacked into right center field, and it's going to hit the rug, but it'll be cut off by Lescano. And Sachs, who went 3 for 4 against Carlton, opens up their second meeting with a base hit to right center field. And the test is going to come early now because Sachs, he has to run. He has to get a starter for the Dodgers, and he has to answer Carlton by telling him, you picked me off the first time, but you won't get me this time. Let's see what happens. And remember, the first time, Russell was bunting, or at least trying to play for a run, and there goes Sachs. The throw goes to Rose. Rose down to his DeJesus to get him. Here is the replay, and he wasn't going to wait. He was going to skywrite it early, but Carlton shoots him down. No doubt about it. Meanwhile, back to live, and Russell takes a strike in the count 0-1. So the Dodgers tried to play a trump card and get Sachs in motion, and Carlton burned him yet again. 0-1. Russell is hitting .300 in this championship series, 3 for 10. He too has a stolen base. 1-1. Big chopper to third. Mike Smith behind the bag. Throws him out. You might see the Dodgers, I think, maybe back out a little bit because Carlton does like to work fast. He does have a rhythm, and they'll try to upset him, but his concentration is such that Tim McCarver, who was his private catcher, simply says it was an elevated game of pitch and catch, and you can't say it any better than that. No, and how? So Carlton working on Guerrero, who was only 1 for 9. That was that fly ball triple at Dodger Stadium. And the breaking ball tight, ball 1-0. Guerrero picked up 2 RBIs that night to help the win as Sachs goes to the repair pits. 1 ball and no strikes. Good breaking ball. And Guerrero will take a little time thinking that one over. 1-1. On deck, hitting cleanup in this drastic maneuver by Lasorda is Dusty Baker. We'll see if that means Guerrero gets better pitches to hit or not, Joe. It'll be something we'll be watching. He had 2 breaking balls so far. And another one that stayed up. Looked like a curveball and not too much spin to it. And I would have to rank that as his number 3 on Carlton's pitch parade. 2-1. Breaking ball again, ball 3. Now, you know Guerrero is hitting if he gets a pitch in his location and he feels he can really hit cross town. Lasorda wants something to happen and happen fast. He's already tried to get it moving, and Sachs was erased. 3-2. There's a breaking ball, Vin, which tells you that he looks like he's going to stay away from the hard stuff. It was not the good, hard, biting slider or what he calls his strikeout slider. Let's see if he does it here with the 3-2 count.
2 down. First inning, no score. Fastball, and he fouled it away. That might be the only fastball he's going to see. Got it down. 3-2. Steve Carlton. This is only the 3rd time in his career that he has had a losing record. The other 2 times, he led the league in losses, would you believe? 3-2. Breaking ball, hammered to left, hooking in the corner, short hopping the wall, and it's a fair ball for a ground rule double. So Guerrero got a ball to hit and doubles in the left field corner. So, of course, now it points up the gamble with Sachs going on the very, well, it wasn't even a pitch.
That it does. Here's the move you're talking about. Sachs was going to break. He had it in his mind he was going to go on the first pitch, and he cannot read Carlton. It's pretty obvious because he was just breaking on the first move, and Carlton gets him. You got that situation, though, with first base open. He had in L.A. and Marshall coming up. What does he do to Baker?
So Dusty Baker, who is 3 for 11. Baker yesterday had a single and a double. Ball 1, 1-0. So once again, you see whether Carlton will pitch around a veteran hitter and go head-to-head with young Mike Marshall on deck.
Then I think one of the beauties of this game of baseball is the game you never see. Sachs trying to send a message, Carlton answering that. Lasorda moving his batting order with Guerrero. Guerrero getting the base hit, not Carlton. Has to send a message to Baker. Will he pitch or pitch around him?
And, of course, Marshall is the recipient of the other message in the on-deck circle. There's ball 3. Baker led the Dodgers in hitting with men in scoring position. He had 311. And now that Carlton has gone 3-0 to him, you get the distinct feeling he's not getting a good pitch. And once again, it'll be Carlton against Marshall.
If he gets a strike here, he'll fly open like a window shade.
3-0 to Dusty Baker. Fastball, ball 4. So once again, they have pitched around the hitter, whether it is Guerrero or Baker, and Carlton will take his best shot against Mike Marshall. Now, Marshall is only 1 for 11. It was a 2-run home run yesterday. It came off a bad changeup made by Charles Hudson.
And he jumped on the first pitch every time up yesterday, and you can bet that Diaz and Carlton are having that in mind.
See if he starts him with his famous slider. Out away. That's what he got, and then he got a piece of it on the foot, and the count 0-1. With runners at first and second, Guerrero doubled and Baker walked. Mike Marshall up there. And remember that note that in both leagues in the championship series, the team that has scored first has won the game. 0-1, the count to Marshall. Fastball away, and that thing really ran away. 1-1.
I think with that first pitch, he pretty much told us what he's going to do to Marshall. He's going to keep that ball inside, that biting slider that he throws.
1-1. Moda, who is the Dodgers hitting coach, was saying before the game he was trying to stress to his hitters, patience, patience. Don't just swing at a pitch around the plate. But, of course, Carlton is so crafty. And the count 1-2. So he's shown him 2 fastballs.
Here's his pitch of decision coming up here at 2-2. He doesn't want to run it to 3-2 and give Baker a couple extra steps off first base, so he'll make it happen here.
2-2 to Marshall. Fastball, half swing, strike 3, and he fooled him with a fastball. He just outthought him. So the Dodgers get a single, a double, and a walk and come up empty. And at the end of half an inning, they lead 2, Dodgers nothing, and the Philadelphia Phillies coming up. Here's the way the Phillies stack up with the Wood. Joe Morgan at second base and Pete Rose at first. Mike Schmidt at third, hitting third, and Sixto Lezcano in the cleanup spot in right. Gary Matthews, yesterday's hero, followed by Gary Maddox, Bo Diaz, Ivan De Jesus, and Steve Carlton. And Jerry Royce going to work on Joe Morgan and vice versa. Morgan is 1 for 11. Ground ball to Sachs. 1 away.
defensively, here's the way the Dodgers will line up. Baker is in left field as usual. Kenny Landreau in center. And Darryl Thomas, he may give us some excitement in right field with those basket catches. Guerrero's at third. Russell is the shortstop. Steve Sachs is at second base. Marshall playing first base. And Yeager behind the plate. And Jerry Royce on the mound.
Pete Rose, the batter, turning around to hit right-handed, and he's had a big league championship series. He's hit .364 thus far. He is 4 for 11, stolen a base, scored a couple of runs. He had 3 hits in yesterday's game. 1 ball and 1 strike to count. It's been a bad year for Pete. He hit 63 points below his career average, and he is trying to make up for it in a flurry. Line foul down into the seats in the right field corner, and the count 1-2. Jerry Royce, who has been a particularly determined athlete since spring training because this is the year of his free agency, now, of course, would give anything to come back and finally win a postseason game. He's 0-5. That's fouled away. In fact, he has lost 5 straight National League Championship games, which is a record. And he would certainly try to break that tonight. 1-2 the count to Pete Rose. Mike Schmidt on deck. Fastball sliced down the right field line, still slicing, and lands foul untouched.
While you're watching Jerry Royce pitch, you may think that he's throwing a slider. I know for a while I did until I asked him. It's his fastball that he's throwing. He can sail his fastball, especially into the right-handed batter like he just did to Pete Rose, or he can sink it. It's the way he grips it. 2 fingers with the seams, he sinks it. 4 seams, he sails it.
If you remember in the first game, because he is so difficult to catch, Yeager caught down on 1 knee, figuring that would keep Royce low, but he's not doing it tonight. Hit to center. Landreau is there. So you have 2 down. Of all the pitchers on the Dodgers staff, Royce is the most difficult to catch. It's another reason why Yeager is in there over Pimple. And now, here is Mike Schmidt, who beat Royce and the Dodgers 1-0 with a first-inning home run at Dodger Stadium. He has hit 10 home runs off Royce, so they know each other very well.
Vin, it's wonderful how the baseball fans pick up on a little thing like the trigger mechanism of Schmidt.
And you see Yeager down on his knee trying to keep the ball down against Schmidt, who is a low ball hitter.
The low inside fastball. Now Schmidt's left side, he'll kind of do a little hula. I've had letters about Marv Rickert, Steve Suchak, Stan Musial. There it is.
1-1 to count. The only way you can catch lower than Yeager is catching Royce is to be Tony Pena or dig a hole and sit in the hole.
Yeager likes to use the upper part of the body, left arm.
Ball 2. Good one. Not only does Schmidt have 10 home runs against Royce, that 10 gives him more home runs against Royce than against any other pitcher in the league. So Jerry being very careful with him. Good hitter on deck, Sixto Lescano. Typically of Schmidt, he has risen to the occasion, hitting .429 in the series. 3-1.
And I was glad that Len Berman and Tom Seaver talked about it. It wasn't a mistake that Schmidt hit. The only mistake that Royce made was that base hit by Lescano, because it was a good pitch by a good pitcher hit by a good hitter. All home runs are not hit off mistakes.
3-1 pitch. Fastball hit up the middle, and it'll go into center field for a base hit. And for Royce, at least the consolation that he kept it inside the park. So with 2 out and Mike Schmidt at first base, the batter will be Sixto Lescano. The only bad pitch Royce said he made, Joe just mentioned, was on the base hit Lescano got in game 1. That is Lescano's only hit in the series. He's 1 for 9. Sixto, as we mentioned, had 11 RBIs against Dodger pitching and 2 home runs when he played for San Diego. The Phillies scored only 14 runs against the Dodgers this year, so you know why he's hitting 4. Good slow curve. 0-1. 2 down. First inning, no score. Mike Schmidt held on by Mike Marshall. Doesn't go. High, 1-1.
There's a good example of a Dodgers scouting report. Lezcano doesn't like the fastball in as a poor breaking ball hitter, according to the reports, and so they've thrown him 2 curveballs here.
And a little bit off speed as well, so we'll see 1 ball and 1 strike. Breaking ball fouled off, and the count 1-2. Jerry Royce trying to keep the Dodgers afloat, and the Dodgers trying somehow to fulfill what appears to be an impossible dream. Beat Carlton and Denny back-to-back. And in Philadelphia, Schmidt at first with 2 out. No score, bottom of the first. Breaking ball hit to left field. Hooking down in the corner. Foul. Foul ball. We were mentioning yesterday that this is a hitter's ballpark.
Here's Lezcano hitting the curveball. It's a bit high, and that'll get you in trouble. Lezcano watches it. He almost like Carlton Fisk in that 75 World Series, hoping that it would stay fair, but he didn't give it the body English Carlton did.
It didn't pay off. 1-2, the count is 6-go Lezcano. Schmidt at first, 2 down. First inning, no score. Ground ball to the hole. Base hit into left field. Mike Schmidt stopping at second, and yesterday's hero, Gary Matthews, coming up, and the crowd going wild. The Sarge, as they call Gary Matthews. He didn't have a 4 RBI game all year until yesterday. What numbers, huh? 2 home runs and a stolen base as well. 2 on, 2 out. First inning, no score. Fastball that almost got away. Schmidt at second. Lezcano at first.
Matthews skipping the rope to get out of the way. That's that low sailing fastball. Matthews, a dead high fastball hitter. He showed us that yesterday.
1 ball and no strikes. Fastball hit the deep left field. She is gone. To take a curtain call. They do not want the game to continue. There he is.
On the replay, you may have noticed the fat Nick Yeager.
Pop fly, Sachs going out and calling. That's it. But 3 big runs for the Phillies. And remember, the team that has scored first has won in every game in both the American and National League Championship Series. It is 3-0 Philadelphia at the end of 1 inning. And Yeager, reflecting the Dodger position as he flinched in pain from the hot bat of Gary Matthews. If he were old enough, I'd swear Gary Matthews put the crack in the Liberty Bell. I know he put a crack in a baseball as Yeager misses 0-1. Yeager 0 for 4 in game 1, and of course Jack Pimple took over after that. One thing you have to remember about the roar of the crowd here in Philadelphia as opposed to Dodger Stadium, acoustically, the crowd overwhelms you in this enclosed stadium. There's no place for the noise to go but straight up. Joe Morgan calling. One away. As you can see, a capacity crowd, and this circular multi-purpose stadium really holds the noise.
But I must admit, Vin, they came ready. When they started hollering, beat L.A., when the band was playing an hour before the game, they came ready.
You know what you have to remember when you compare the two franchises? The Dodgers have had more World Series games played in Los Angeles than Philadelphia has in its entire existence, and it's 100 years old. So there is a lot of provincialism here, and well understood. They have gone hungry too long. They want it badly. And L.A. has always stood in the way. Ground ball to Morgan. 2 down.
This is that inning that we referred to yesterday, using that new term in sports, unanswered. This is when the Dodgers have to score, or it'll be a little bit of an extra shot in the arm for the Phillies because they put 3 crooked numbers on the scoreboard, and they've been able to slam the door on the Dodgers. That's what they're looking to do.
It's also somewhat of a downer day for the Dodgers, as it would be for any traveling team in this particular set of circumstances. For instance, the Dodgers had to pack their suitcases today. They were going to go home tonight if they lost. Well, right away, that's a negative thought. You have to live with it. Secondly, if they do lose, they will fly all night to go home. That's a negative thought. 0-2 the count. So their bags are packed. The rooms, however, are kept, and they're hoping somehow to make it back to the hotel and not Los Angeles. 1-2.
Of course, the most negative thought of all is lose.
You got it. You got it. 2 out, and Darryl Thomas as Tommy Lasorda, who was originally signed by the Philadelphia Phillies and eventually drifted over to the Dodger organization. Foul ball.
And if you're wondering about these negative thoughts, I'll tell you how far they go. When you played for Mr. Rickey and you were the catcher, when you were on the on-deck circle, even if there were 2 outs, you did not put your shin guards on and wait for the hitter. You went up there without your shin guards on to get rid of that negative thought.
Well, I would think that's a bench full of negative thoughts right now. It was full of negative thoughts when Bob Welch had to walk off yesterday afternoon with a bad hip. 1-2. Breaking ball. Oh, he threw him a beauty. Darryl almost came out of his uniform. And it's still 1-2. In direct contrast, don't they look eager to go to Baltimore?
Yes, sir. They got the oil checked and everything. It's only going to be a short drive for them.
58 miles down the road. 2-2. But a lot of baseball left. We're in the top of the second inning. Philadelphia 3, the Dodgers nothing. And Steve Carlton, like the Colossus of Rhodes, standing on that mound. He must look 10 feet tall at least. And that's hit to center. Coming up for it is Maddox, but it's a base hit. So a bloop single for Darryl Thomas. And it'll bring up Jerry Royce. He will stay in. Wonder why we say he'll stay in. Bert Hooton was throwing in the Dodger bullpen, but he stopped. Two down. Phillies 3, Dodgers nothing. Royce at the plate. Strike.
One of the consolations I'm sure that the Dodgers had so far, if you can find one, and I know if I was on the bench, I'd be looking for them, they do have 3 base hits off Carlton.
He came with that big breaking ball, and the count 0-2. Rose holding Darryl Thomas. 3-0 Philadelphia, top of the second inning. 0-2. Breaking ball, got him swinging. No runs, 1 hit, a man left. The Dodgers have left 3, and at the end of an inning and a half, Philadelphia 3, and the Dodgers nothing. Goodyear Blimp America from Houston, Texas. The pilot is Captain John Moran from Spring, Texas. The 192-foot airship filled with non-flammable helium. Big hook misses, ball one, 1-0. Bo Diaz is looking for his first hit in the series. He's 0 for 9. 3-0 Philadelphia in the second inning. Line drive, base hit to left field. So Bo Diaz comes up with hit number 4. And with nobody out, Ivan De Jesus and the Dodger bullpen, Bird Hooton gets up. And for the second time, Hooton will begin to loosen up. De Jesus 2 for 9 with an RBI. Fouled away, 0-1. Paul Owens and his coach Bobby Wine taking in the proceedings. It looks a lot rosier with a 3-0 lead in the second inning. That's a strike. 0-2.
Some talk that the Pope is enjoying it so much on the field that he may not go back to that general manager's chair.
0-2, the count to Ivan De Jesus. Fastball away.
He may have to go home and play Kenny Rogers' record. You got to know when to fold him.
Boy, and how. That big plush chair and that big plush office looks awfully good. 59-year-old Paul Owens. 1-2. Lifted back at first and down the line. Slicing foul. Darrell Thomas on the run. Makes the basket catch on the run.
I tell you, the fella is probably one of the most maligned, but probably one of the best, if not the best, utility player. Call it what you want. Call it hot dogging. Call it showmanship. He gets the job done. He made the catch. He ran a long way. He got the base hit. He can play anywhere.
He says, I'm in the business to entertain. I am an entertainer. Well, he's entertaining because Mike Marshall nor Steve Sachs could have made the play. And Thomas racing over near the tarp roller picked it off. Here's Steve Carlton. Guerrero on the move, ball one. So we'll see if lefty is bunting. One ball and no strikes to count.
I think just as big a factor on his bunt would be to get lefty off the bases and just give him as much rest as he can get. He's got a 3-run lead.
And a half swing. 1-1. Carlton, over his career, has certainly been no cinch out. He has 11 home runs, 119 RBIs in his career. But he's up there now, 1 ball and 1 strike. Guerrero well up inside the bag at third. Marshall ready to push off and come to the plate with Diaz at first. And he's bunting, and he got it down. Yeager will throw to Sachs. So Steve Carlton moves his man along, and the batter is Joe Morgan. Little Joe grounded out in the first inning. He's 0 for 1. He is hitting less than 100 in the series. He has just 1 hit. Morgan's base hit was a single to right field in the 3rd inning yesterday against Alejandro Pena. And he drives it to right. Darrell going back. And the orthodox catch. So Bo Diaz leads off with a base hit, and they leave him as Royce settles down. And at the end of 2, the Phillies 3, the Dodgers nothing. We'll be right back after these messages from your local station. To be here at Veterans Stadium in Philadelphia. Game 4 of the National League Championship Series And the Phillies and Steve Carlton leading 3-0. In the third inning, the Dodgers trying to come back. It'll be Steve Sachs, Bill Russell, and Pedro Guerrero. Breaking ball missed with it, ball one. Remember, Sachs committing himself prematurely and hung out to dry in the first inning. The Dodgers followed with a double and a walk and came up empty. Ball two.
If he should get on, it really is going to be interesting to see what the message will be. Will he cut down his lead? Will he try to do it on Carlton again? Will he nail him?
2 balls, no strikes. In there.
Here's what happened the first time. He picked him off from here to there.
There was a great move in the first game. I really thought he had balked, but not tonight. Fly ball to left field. Matthews backtracking. He's got it. One away, and Bill Russell will be the batter. By the way, if you are a purist and a student of geography, we had mentioned in looking at the Philadelphia bench that they were 58 miles from Baltimore. I was told down on the field it would be a 58-mile drive from Veterans Stadium to Orioles Stadium, but that's not true. They tell me it's about 90 miles. So the guy who told me that probably had that speed gun that had the tree going 70, Joe.
72 miles it was gone.
1-1 to count to Bill Russell. Russell followed by Guerrero in the third inning. 3 runs, 4 hits for the Phils. No runs, 3 hits for the Dodgers. Chopper foul outside of third. The big blow, Gary Matthews, who had 4 RBIs yesterday, hit a 3-run home run in the first inning tonight.
As we look at Charlie Hudson, yesterday's winning pitcher.
1-2, foul ball.
Certainly, then, do want to congratulate Joe Altobelli of Baltimore and Tony La Russa, the Orioles and White Sox. Great season, great championship series.
Fouled away. And, of course, if you were at work or doing something today and for some reason missed it, the Baltimore Orioles upended the Chicago White Sox today, and they will be the host team in the World Series for the first 2 games. In the dirt.
And if I get a chance here, Vin, Charlie Grimm is in Scottsdale Memorial Hospital in Scottsdale, Arizona. Charlie, I know many fans around wish him well. If you're not doing anything, drop him a card. He's always wanting to stay busy.
Good idea, Joe. Half swing, strike 3, and the slider takes care of Russell. And 2 down, and Steve Carlton. You know what's amazing about Carlton? There are so many things. This is the 13th full year in a row that Carlton has started at least 33 games during the regular year. And, of course, this is his second start in the League Championship Series. He is literally and figuratively a tower of strength. Foul back. He has 17 years with 100 or more strikeouts, tying the National League record, now shared with Warren Spahn. And there are a lot of people who feel that Carlton wants to eventually break Warren Spahn's record. He's not satisfied with the 300. Bouncer back to Carlton. And at the end of 2.5 innings, the Philadelphia Phillies 3, the Los Angeles Dodgers nothing. This crowd here in Philadelphia really acting like the 10th man with Philadelphia leading 3-0.
10-20, they are really something. They came hyped and they're ready. We understand there's some people already with sleeping bags outside waiting to buy World Series tickets.
Well, you have the power of positive thinking. And, of course, the Dodgers trying to shake the negative feeling. That's it down the right field line, slicing foul and out of play. And it seems to hang over Veterans Stadium like a pall of smoke. That very simple declarative sentence that the team that scores first wins. And it is very evident here tonight. Royce had the first 2 out in the first inning, and then it got away on him. And that's hit up the middle. Pete Rose, who had 3 hits yesterday, is 1 for 2 tonight. And no rest for the weary. Now Royce has to go up against Mike Schmidt. And it was Schmidt who started the first inning with 2 out and singled to center. Then Lescano singled to left, and then Matthews hit one upstairs. Phillies 3, Dodgers nothing, bottom of the 3rd. Fastball, and a pretty good one.
During the winning streak, Mike Schmidt said we won games every way imaginable except by forfeit. He just went out and did it, and they're leading here.
And with Carlton. Well, he's staying with the fastball, but he's kept it outside. 1 on the corner and 1 away, and the count 1 ball and 1 strike. Mike hitting .455 in the series. Staying away, 2-1.
The home run that he hit was low inside, and Jerry remembers it, Yeager remembers it, and Mike Schmidt remembers it. But with this stance, he's moved a little bit closer to the plate. He's not as deep in the batter's box, and he will stride towards the plate, not the pitch. He wants to keep that left shoulder tucked in so he doesn't pull the ball foul.
2-1. Ball 3. Pete Rose standing at first, nobody out. And this crowd has been roaring ever since Mike Schmidt singled with 2 out in the first inning. Ground ball down to Sachs. He'll go to Russell. Back to Marshall, not in time. So with 1 out, Marshall trying to stretch and go out and get it.
Russell makes a good pivot. He gets good stuff on it. Rose did everything he could, but Mike Schmidt, and that's one of those overlooked things, he beats it out. He stays away from the double play, which is the inning wrecker, and it gives Lescano a chance. And I'll tell you, when Matthews comes up, this place will probably just lift off like we were at Cape Kennedy.
Well, here's Lescano. He has 2 hits in the series, both hits against Royce. And he singled in the first inning, and that set the stage for Gary Matthews. And Schmidt bluffs. 4-1. There he is, and as Joe mentioned, when he walks up to the plate, we're just going to shut up. There's no way to fight this crowd.
You can't do it. It'll just lift off the whole place.
1-0 to Sixto Lescano.
That's not a bad play by Yeager. He wasn't so much worried about or trying to pick Schmidt off as to keep him close and let him know that I know you're there. Because Jerry, on the first pitch, Royce did not pay that much attention to Schmidt, and he's very good at the delayed steal, and he took 5 good steps. Listen to the crowd.
Beat L.A. 3-0. You have to understand that the Dodgers beat Philadelphia in the playoffs in 1977 and in 1978. Three and one. Sixto Lescano with Mike Schmidt at first, 1 out in the 3rd. Phillies 3, Dodgers nothing. And that's hit to Baker. And now make way for the big man. He's no longer Sarge. He's at least a second lieutenant, Gary Matthews. Matthews has 4 consecutive hits in the series. by getting 4 that ties a record. He joins Richie Hebner, Ron Say, Steve Garvey, and Dusty Baker. 1-0. Ground ball to Russell. He'll feed to Sachs, and they'll get the 4th. No runs, 1 hit, 1 man left. And at the end of 3, the Phillies 3, the Dodgers nothing, with Baker, Marshall, and Yeager coming up. A bird's eye view of the playing field here at Veterans Stadium, with Philadelphia leading 3-0 in the 4th inning. Interesting note, Dusty Baker followed by Mike Marshall and Steve Yeager. In a 4-game league championship series, Baker holds the record with 8 RBIs. That record has been tied by Gary Matthews in left field. Interestingly enough, Baker had his 8 RBIs against the Phillies in 1977, and Gary Matthews has returned the favor. High fly ball to left. Matthews on the track, at the wall. It's gone. Home run, Baker. It is only a phrase, but it certainly seems applicable here in Philadelphia. Home run, Baker.
That's right. When you said that, it flashed.
So that makes it 3-1 in favor of Philadelphia, as Bake hits it out and gets a high 5. The batter now is Mike Marshall. 0-1.
Carlton has 3 strikeouts, but the Dodgers have hit him. They got 4 base hits, and they've hit him hard.
Line drive down the left field line and in the corner. Matthews chasing it, and Marshall on his way to second base with a stand-up double. So the Dodgers have 2 doubles and a home run against Carlton, and the batter is Steve Yeager. And now the thought has to start to grow in the Dodger dugout that maybe Carlton is human after all. His record here at Veterans Stadium is staggering. 130 victories and only 48 losses. Not quite, but almost 3 out of every 4 he wins. Nobody out in the 4th. Yeager has had a very, very poor year. He has hit less than 200 with men in scoring position, and he has not hit at all since he suffered a fractured wrist. He just checked with Wire to make sure he had swung at a strike. 0-2.
Carlton is really jamming him, trying to keep him going the right side, although I don't think Yeager even thought about it.
In the dirt, and it hit him on the foot, not in the dirt, which means Marshall has to go back to second. So Yeager is hit by the pitch.
You could
and the
hear
Dodgers
that.
first and second.
Did you hear it?
Yeah, I did. Right there, Manny, he's saying.
Here's a look at it. Right on the bunions, and all that's going to do is make him late for the dance. I don't think it'll hurt his speed.
It won't hurt his speed.
There's the other angle, and it's like a triple hot foot. You can see Yeager, who's had his share of injuries. I'll tell you, he is like, well, he told us in L.A., if he was a car, he'd be recalled.
Now let's see what Landreau does. He's bunting and takes a strike to throw. They got Marshall picked off. And DeJesus to Schmidt. Oh, what a big play.
You really have to give Diaz a lot of credit. That was not a set play. He just saw Marshall take steps and lean, and that's a tough play for the base runner. You try to get a good jump with the bunt, and he fires it down to DeJesus, who got behind Marshall. He's in no man's land, and I'll tell you, that really takes the wind out of your sails.
Well, it's 2-6-5 if you're scoring. Landreau flinching on a big roundhouse curveball. And the count 0-2. So Carlton gets a big break as they pick off the potential tying run. Paul Owen wondering what next. 0-2. Little foul, out of play.
Very difficult when you're a base runner at second base not to break at the first movement by the batter, but you really have to be sure. And looked like Landreau was going to bunt it. Marshall tried to get off, and very alertly Diaz fired that ball at De Jesus, who was really Johnny on the spot.
0-2. Ball one. It was such a quick shot of him, I'm not sure, but I thought I caught Lasorda muttering to the equipment manager something about the first pitch, as if maybe he felt Landreau should have gotten a bunt down. Well, now he had first and second and nobody out. Now he has two down, a runner at second, and Darrell Thomas coming up. And after muttering an expletive, which we can't repeat, Lasorda takes a hike.
Keep in mind, he saw his leadoff man get a base hit and get picked off in the first inning. Now he's got something going after the home run, and his man gets picked off second base. That is really, really putting the old knife in the wound.
The Phillies are heating up in the bullpen, so they are somewhat concerned about Carlton. And here is Darrell Thomas, who singled in the second inning. And, of course, Yeager is a tough man to score on a base hit. Down in the bullpen, Marty Bystrom throwing behind Carlton. 0-1 the count. And that gets behind Diaz, so over to third goes Yeager. And, of course, that could be a key pitch if Thomas can get a base hit. As we said, Yeager would be questionable to get home on a single on AstroTurf, but now he's at third.
He just missed it. It was that biting slider hit on the heel of the glove, and you would think it would be they give him a wild pitch. Here it is. It hit him right in the glove. I think I'd have to score that pass ball.
And yet, they scored at a wild pitch. 0-2 the count. Thomas has not been a productive hitter with men on base. 1-2. In fact, with men in scoring position this year, Darrell Thomas has only 2 hits in 33 at-bats. Of course, again, he is not an everyday player. The lefty trying to work his way out of a jam. Got him. 5 strikeouts for Steve Carlton, but the big play, the pickoff of Mike Marshall. The Dodgers wind up with a home run and a double, lead 1, and at the end of 3 1/2, Phillies 3, Dodgers 1.
You're looking at Mike Marshall and Steve Sachs, and you can bet as they get ready for the pitch in this inning, what they're thinking about is Marshall getting picked off second, Sachs getting picked off first in the first inning.
Royce working on Maddox. Ball 1. So they become just notches on Steve Carlton's rifle. Foul back. 1-1 the count. Maddox popped up in the first inning. He's 0 for 1.
Different plays have different reactions on a team, and when you get picked off, it just lets all the air out.
Foul ball down the right field line, out of play. And of course, I'm sure, Joe, one thing that Sachs and Marshall cannot afford to do is wool gather out there and be thinking about being picked off. They've got to forget about it and concentrate on the game at hand.
That's what they have to do, and it's a very difficult assignment.
1-2. Fastball, foul tipped, and down he goes. So Gary Maddox strikes out. For Royce, his first strikeout. Carlton has 5. And the batter is Bo Diaz, who singled in the second inning.
When Diaz made that play at second base, there are some clubs that have what they call a curveball pitch out. If there's a right-hand pitcher and a right-hand batter with a man on second base and a bunt in order, they'll call a curveball pitch out. Walker Cooper used to do that.
Strike, good pitch. But whatever it was, it sure hung Marshall out to dry.
Well, I think Diaz just saw Marshall break a couple steps and saw his man there and gunned him.
Foul ball. And if, and I use the word if advisedly, good catch. But if I caught Lasorda right, I think he felt Landro should have been able to bunt that first pitch. I don't know. 0-2 to Diaz. DeJesus on deck. 3-1 Philadelphia, bottom of the fourth. Fastball away. Sellout crowd at Veterans Stadium. It's been a while since 1980. They want it back again. A ground ball to Guerrero. Over to Marshall. 2 down. That'll bring up Ivan DeJesus. Also, we should point out, when the Dodgers come up in the 5th inning, Jerry Royce is due to lead off. Then Sachs and Russell. There is no one throwing at the moment in the Dodger bullpen, and the Philly pen is quiet. Ball 1.
Keep in mind, as Tom Seaver said in the pregame show, both pitchers on short rest. If they get to the 6th or 7th inning, you're going to see some quick moves.
Line drive, base hit to center field for DeJesus. So if nothing else, that will bring up Carlton and get him out of the way so that they can start the 5th inning with Morgan. But at the same time, remember, all of Royce's troubles came with 2 out in the 1st inning. So here's Carlton, sacrificed in the 2nd inning.
Going for the strikeout here. He's going to try to overpower lefty. He's certainly not taking him easy, lightly.
1-0. So that balances it. 1 ball, 1 strike. 2 out. DeJesus at first, held on by Marshall. Phillies 3, Dodgers 1, bottom of the 4th. Fouled away. 1-2.
Ben, I think Seaver's point in the pregame show well taken, that it is the first night game, and it does help the hitters because they are swinging better and they are getting their base hit.
Well, Joe Morgan said tonight, in talking about yesterday, it was the worst lighting conditions he had ever experienced. 2-2. And if Morgan says that, it's got to be bad.
I believe you. I believe. That was that same curveball he threw in the first time as we look at Joe Morgan. But I'll tell you something. Right now, with the count 2-2, he's going to throw a good hard stuff down the middle.
And it's fouled away. So Carlton is still there. 2 balls and 2 strikes. Ivan DeJesus, who has waned in the Dodger organization. Now a solid fixture here in Philadelphia. And talking about solid, look at those thighs. Remarkable athlete. 2-2. Fastball, a high chopper. It's going to go through, and DeJesus will go to 3rd. And Landro runs it in.
This is the very thing that Pete Rose talked about, the artificial surface, although that hit right in front of the plate. And once it landed on the artificial surface, and there was no way that Sachs or Russell could get it. And now Morgan with 1st and 3rd. I tell you, the Phillies certainly on a roll. And with Paul Owen there in the dugout, if little puffs of white smoke came out, I'd believe it.
Well, here's Morgan, grounded out and flied to right. And again, Royce faced with 2-out problems. It cost him 3 runs in the 1st inning. Time called, no pitch. Nice catch by Lee Wire.
Jerry didn't want to tip off what he was throwing, so when he got in the middle and they called time, he just threw that big cantaloupe up there.
2 down. 3-1 Philadelphia, bottom of the 4th. Little pop fly, and it's Mike Marshall in foul ground, and the inning is over. So with 2 out, singles by DeJesus and Carlton, and they leave them. And at the end of 4, Philadelphia 3 and the Dodgers 1. We'll be right back after these messages from your local station. NBC Sports sending you all the thrills from Veterans Stadium in Philadelphia, having already covered the American League Championship Series won by the Baltimore Orioles. All eyes now here on Philadelphia, and the Phils and Steve Carlton leading the Dodgers and Jerry Royce 3-1 as we go to the 5th inning. Boy, is that ever the theme song.
All over this town. And there is young Tug McGraw. So if Tug's not in it, he's got his son in it. I knew he'd figure out a way.
They're accusing him of nepotism before the ball game. Well, Jerry Royce stays in. That answers the first question. He'll be followed by Steve Sachs and Bill Russell. Strike, breaking ball, 0-1. Royce and Carlton were teammates with the Cardinals back in 1970 and 71, and then they went their separate ways. 1-1.
Willie Stargell, talking about Carlton, said he makes it look so easy because he works so hard.
1-2. Breaking ball, down he goes. 6 strikeouts for Steve Carlton.
Watch his motion. His mechanics, of course, are great, but I think it's his energy that he makes it flow. He doesn't get too sharp, he doesn't get too flat. It's always an even flow and complete control. And he'd rather pitch in and out than up and down, and what can you say? His record speaks for itself.
Well, he has 6 strikeouts, 3 consecutively. Remember, he had Landreau and Thomas to end the 4th. Now Royce to begin the 5th. Here is Sachs, who is 1 for 2. Strike. Sachs, somewhat of a first ball hitter, singled in the 1st inning. Took a couple his next at bat and looked at the slider. 0-1. Half swing. They look at first. No swing, said Doug Harvey. And the count, 1 ball and 1 strike. Sachs hitting .308 in the series. Big overhand curveball in there. The lefty comes up with kind of a rainbow curve, and the count 1-2. Carlton began the year in fine style and finished somewhat wobbly. Line foul.
Great night by the fan with the net. Here is the first game in Los Angeles when Sachs was picked off on Tuesday night. Going back.
I really think he balked on that.
A lot of people think that, some of the players, and a lot of people thought that Sachs was safe on that.
They're 0 for 2, those people. A bouncer down to DeJesus. Nice big rug hop for him. So 2 out in the 5th inning. And Bill Russell will be the batter. We said that Carlton started well and finished wobbly. By that we mean he started the year with 6 wins and 2 losses. But he struggled at the end. He was 9-14. So he wound up with a losing record. Lasorda pacing up and down as is his wont. Owens doesn't move around at all. Ground ball, foul. Usually Paul gets in one spot and stays there. Boy, they've got a sporting goods supply house down there in the left field corner.
They come with all kinds of equipment to snag those foul balls.
They must have a magnet. Ball 2, 2-1. Russell was a thorn in the Phillies' side all year. In 12 games, he had 15 hits. Hit around .350 against Philadelphia. A little high. 3-1. And of course, it is important for Russell to get aboard so that Guerrero can have a shot at trying to catch up. And there it is. The Dodgers get a look at it now as Guerrero represents the tying run with 2 out.
It's a big challenge for Carlton right here in L.A. He pitched around Guerrero. Now he has to go right at him.
You know, it has not been easy for Carlton as we look at Claude Osteen and apparently somewhat worried Doug McGraw and Dave Bristol. Phillies 3, Dodgers 1. Ball 1. Carlton has given up 5 hits. He has walked 2 and hit a batter. But as usual, he has relied on the strikeout, and he has a half a dozen. Ball 2. Guerrero has always hit well against the Phillies. In his young career, he has a lifetime batting average of .316. So the Dodgers have to feel they have the right man at the right spot.
And there's the proof of the good pitcher as we look at Paul Owens on the left and Bobby Wine. What does he do when he's behind that hitter? 2 balls and no strikes, 3-1, 2-0. He just snapped off a good curveball.
2-1, the count of Pedro Guerrero. Fastball fouled away.
I just wish there was some way you could really realize the timing and rhythm that Carlton is in. It's almost like boom, 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 boom. He just never changes it. Nothing throws him off his pattern.
That's part of that tremendous concentration that he has. And Guerrero, tired of those beady eyes on him, backs out to break the mood, at least for the moment. Pedro always comes to the plate as if he's going to chop down a tree. Ever notice? Spits on both hands, rubs them together. He's got a big redwood out there now. 2-2. Bouncer foul, and again a breaking ball. He's got 1 fastball, and he fouled it away.
They got another one with that net, and of course the crowd reacting to it. Carlton feels that if he makes his pitches, what the hitter wants to do just doesn't matter.
2 balls and 2 strikes. Ball 3. Guerrero wouldn't go after that slider. And the count 3-2. So with 2 down, Bill Russell will be going from first. And Rose stays on the corner. Fouled away. Steve Carlton gets over $1 million a year to get people out. And Guerrero, if the papers are right, gets over $600,000 a year to give pitchers a bad time. So these 2 guys are in the high rent district, Joe.
You're looking at baseball's Dow Jones averages.
3-2. And Russell not about to get over anxious, ready to go on a full count. Ball 4. 3rd walk given up by Steve Carlton. And now Dusty Baker, who walked in the 1st inning and led off the 4th inning with a home run, is coming up. So the tying runs are aboard, just as they were aboard in the 4th inning with nobody out. It is a very bumpy ride for Carlton tonight, even though he's leading.
And Diaz and Schmidt are out talking to him. Mechanically, what Claude Osteen, the pitching coach, looks for is the full turn that he must take and breaking his hands behind him. Paul Owens looking on. He's got his bullpen stirring.
Down in the bullpen, Willie Hernandez and Larry Anderson, the right-hander, throwing behind lefty. Baker not ready. Carlton was ready, but Dusty said, don't let him quick pitch me. Now they hook up. Ball 1. That was the only thing that Manny Mota preached to the Dodger hitters. As you see Russell at 2nd and Guerrero at 1st. Be patient up there. Make him get the ball up. 1-0 to Baker. Line foul, and that ball was up a little, and the count 1-1.
He's getting that breaking ball and curveball up. He doesn't want it there because we've said it before and say it again. He'd rather pitch in and out, up and down. Doesn't mean anything, and that's where he gets in trouble.
So Dusty Baker hitting .333 with a home run and an RBI. 2 on, 2 out, 5th inning, 3-1 Philadelphia. 1-2.
Here's a big pitch. You wonder, is he going to set up the 2-2? It's 1 ball, 2 strikes. He's got that good hard slider. He may take a shot at that outside corner and hope that he chases the bad ball. Let's see.
Carlton with 6 strikeouts in 4 2/3 innings. Two and two. Breaking ball down at the feet.
That was the slider. That was not the strikeout slider. The strikeout slider, it's a tight slider. It spins like a gyroscope and drops straight down. It will not go down and in. It will go straight down.
2 balls, 2 strikes, 2 out. Ball 3. So the Dodgers get a little bit of a break. The tying runs aboard will be in motion with 2 out. And on deck is Mike Marshall, who struck out and doubled tonight. Russell ready to go from second. Guerrero ready to go from first with 2 out. 3-1 Philadelphia. Top of the 5th inning. Runners go. Ground foul behind Amalfitano.
He would not give him the fastball. The good pitcher just does not give in to the hitter. You're going to have to go out and beat him. He will not lose to you. You must beat him.
And all the while, Anderson and Hernandez continue to throw in the Philadelphia bullpen. Three and two. Runners go. And it's popped in the air to right field. Sixto Lezcano puts it away. No runs, no hits, 2 left. And at the end of 4.5 innings, to the delight of this large crowd, Phillies 3, Dodgers 1. As we go to the bottom of the 5th inning with Philadelphia leading the Dodgers 3-1, Royce will be working on Rose, Schmidt, and Lezcano, and that's ball 1.
Vin, just a point. Carlton made 30 pitches that last inning. He's made 94 in the game. That is a factor.
It sure is. Of course, Britt Burns is a classic case in point, and where you finally bottom out. What did he make, about 150 pitches today?
150 plus,
Whoa.
and what a game he pitched.
Didn't he, though? 1-1. And that's a line drive base hit into right center. Darrell Thomas up with it, and Rose is 2 for 3. That is the 8th hit of Jerry Royce. And the batter will be Mike Schmidt.
It's not just a game for Pete Rose. It's really a pilgrimage, because he said, I'm going to play the playoffs, and I'm going to show some people that I can play.
You know, we gave the note yesterday, and it really confounds you to realize he's done it again. He has 1,158 multiple hit games in his career, and add another one to that. Wow, what a hitter. And here is Mike Schmidt. Singled, hit into a force play. Mike is 1 for 2.
To bring that point home, someday this winter when you have nothing to do, look up and see how many major league players have even gone to the ballpark 1,159 times.
That's right. 1 ball and no strikes, the count to Mike. And he missed it. He's behind now, 2-0. Of course, Mike dealt Royce a mortal blow in game 1 with his first inning home run. In the Dodger bullpen, right-hander Joe Beckwith begins to loosen up. Anderson and Hernandez would appear to be throwing in the Philadelphia pen. Unless they switch, we'll double check. 2-0. And there's a drive into left center field. Baker going back and over, and this one is off the wall. It doesn't come back, so that allows Rose to keep on coming on a double by Mike Schmidt. If the ball hits the wall and comes back to Baker, Rose would have to stop at third. But when it short hopped the wall, it went straight up in the air, and that meant the additional base. 4-1 Philadelphia, and Lasorda heading for the mound.
Mike Schmidt is on at second base. He hit the ball very hard. And here's a good look at it. Watch the short hop. It goes straight up, and both Landreau and Baker have to wait for it. And it's Baker who comes up with it, and that crazy hop allowed Rose to score.
And Jerry Royce is chased, and again, it was Mike Schmidt. It was Schmidt who singled with 2 out in the first inning, and that led to Matthews' 3-run home run. It is Schmidt who doubles in Rose to make it Phillies 4, Dodgers 1. Nobody out. While Joe Beckwith warms up, we have a chance to remind you that Sunday, join host Len Berman as NFL 83 kicks off week number 6. Then stay tuned for exciting regional action. The New York Jets take on the Cleveland Browns, Buffalo at Miami, Denver at Houston, New England at Baltimore, and Seattle at San Diego. Check your local listings for the game and time in your area. 4 runs, 9 hits for the Phils, who certainly put it to Royce, and the Dodgers 1 run, 5 hits.
Yeah, when you're talking about that football, if you see Gassero, you're going to challenge him to an arm wrestling match?
No, and I don't know the man's name, but that guy's got to be good.
Brave. Brave is the word. Jets. I wonder if he'll do his little dance.
He beat Lawrence Taylor, you know, the middle linebacker of the Giants. He beat him in the arm wrestling, too.
This is the male model. Built to
Model
steel.
for what? Yeah, Superman. Joe Beckwith out of Auburn, the University of Auburn. He comes in now to literally pick up the pieces. Philadelphia 4, Dodgers 1. He'll be pitching to Sixto Lescano. Beckwith came in yesterday in the 5th inning. Lescano was sent up to hit by Paul Owens, and Beckwith struck him out, only to surrender a single to Matthews that allowed 2 runs to score. And now he faces Lescano again with a runner at second and nobody out. 4-1 Philadelphia. 4-1.
Not just that, but those shots of Paul Owens, it's kind of a, hey, that's the most animated I've seen him in a long time. Paul is a low-key guy, just hard worker. He just loads the wagon and gets the job done, but he's caught up in it, and why not? Look at him.
Well, you know, when you look at Paul Owens, you realize the deals that he has made to strengthen this Philadelphia club. For instance, Sixto Lescano, who's up there right now. He's hit .385 with men in scoring position since he came over to Philadelphia.
The Lescano trade was the trade which he stayed in the ballpark, was in his uniform, and went home in his uniform, took the trash out. 2 cars pulled up, and he had to hide in the bushes because he said, if they pick me up now, I think I'm nuts walking around with a baseball suit.
He and LeFay were 11th hour deal, and he got the bunt down. Beckwith acted like he didn't even see it, and finally Marshall makes the play. But when you look about Paul Owens' trade, LeFay from San Diego, Maddox from San Francisco, Matthews from Atlanta, Denny from Cleveland, Reed from St. Louis, Morgan and Holland from San Francisco. Of course, the big deal, Steve Carlton, that trade involving Rick Wise was a John Quinn trade.
And give Hugh Alexander a lot of credit, his right-hand man, because I remember at the baseball meetings what heat he took.
They're going to take the bat out of Gary Matthews' hand and put runners at first and third with 1 out. And in a moment, Gary Maddox will be coming up. Not a very popular decision, but if you are a professional pitcher, it's the only decision to make. There you can see the numbers and where Matthews is in a 4-game series.
This is the old playground play where you give him 4 pitches, 1 base, you know where he is, rather 1 pitch, 4 bases, and then he's back on the bench.
Yeah, some chicken. All Matthews is doing is hitting .462, 3 home runs, 8 RBIs, and a stolen base. They call Beckwith chicken. So first and third with 1 out in the 5th inning. 4 runs, 9 hits for the Phils, 1 run, 5 hits for the Dodgers. Gary Maddox against Royce had popped up and struck out, 0 for 2. Years ago, when Gary Maddox first came up to the National League, he was allowed to keep his beard because of a facial infection he had, we understand, in Vietnam. And he had to grow the beard, and they said, okay. And, of course, since then, we've had several bearded wonders in the league. So there's Mike Schmidt at third. Over at first is Gary Matthews, and here's Maddox. 4-1. Maddox followed by Bo Diaz. Gary hit over 300 against the Dodgers this year. And of course, with 8 consecutive Gold Gloves, he's one of the brilliant outfielders in the game. Chase one, smothered by Yeager. And the count 1-1. So Smitty has to hold.
Yeager did a real good job of just keeping that ball in front of him. Look at it on the replay. Your job is to block that ball, and that's what he did. And that's what Canfer used to do so well, and that's what I've been kind of preaching, I guess, and lean on that. All you got to do is keep that ball in front of you, push it in front of you if you can, because psychologically, when the base runner sees it in front of the catcher, he's not going to advance. That one-hand grab would never been by him.
1 ball and 1 strike to Gary Maddox. And they pitched out. And they were looking both at Schmidt and at Matthews. So they were thinking of a possible delayed double steal and also a possible squeeze. So the wheels were going around in Yeager's head, and the count 2-1. Davey Bristol muttered something to Schmidt. And over at first, Matthews. The Dodger infield about halfway. Marshall on the bag. Guerrero almost even at third. And they bring up Sachs and Russell a little bit. 2-1 to Gary Maddox. So they think something's in the wind, with the Phils leading 4-1. Two balls and 1 strike. And got the inside corner with a fastball at the knees, and Maddox can't believe the news. 2-2.
He doesn't say much, but I'll tell you, if those eyes were on fire, Lee Wire would have had 2 holes burned right through him.
2-2 to Gary Maddox. Daddy Longleg. Boy, can he cover ground. Busted bat. It's hit back to Beckwith, and he went to the plate. Too late. He had an easy play, and he panicked. So it shows you when a pitcher did not think, what will I do if the ball is hit to me?
He doesn't come up with it cleanly, and now he doesn't know what to do. Second, and he decides I'll throw it to the closest, and right through his legs. Here's Mike Schmidt. Once he sees the ball hit, and Schmidt makes a straight slide, and that's what made it. He goes right through Yeager's legs. Once Beckwith picked up the ball, had he, I think, come up cleanly, he was going to go to second base for the double play. And once he didn't come up with the first shot, he thought, second is too late, I'll go to the plate, and he lost it all the way around.
It will go as a fielder's choice and a run batted in. Maddox, I think, cracking the bat. And Lasorda, well, there's Lasorda. You fill in the blanks in 10 words or less. Right. Tommy from Norristown, Pennsylvania, not too far away. Originally signed with the Phillies and faced with a long overnight trip back to Los Angeles in the end of the year.
The Dodgers, who have really taken pride in playing it the Dodgers way, with the 2 pickoffs by Marshall and Sachs, this play, I think I could understand it. If he would have come up with it cleanly, he's got the double play. But once he lost the play, he tried to go to second because that was the first thing that was programmed into the brain. And when he saw he couldn't make the play, he thought he'd get the lead run, at least get 1 out. But it's been plays like that, and more so the 2 pickoff plays that have really hurt the Dodgers.
1 ball and 1 strike to count. Ball 2. And in looking back, certainly yesterday and tonight, and it's not taking anything away from Philadelphia, they have played like a championship team. They have played like a winner. And the Dodgers have played like a loser. 2-1 to count to Bo Diaz. Little roller up along third. Guerrero on the run. Gets him. And the runners move up 90. Maddox goes to second and Matthews to third.
Guerrero made a good play coming in. He's got to keep coming, actually throw to the base while he's running away from it. And he gets Diaz in pretty good shape. There are so many games that you win, and there are so many games you're going to lose. The ones that kill you are the ones where you beat yourself. You lose. That the other club really doesn't beat you, you lose.
You know that expression, we have met the enemy and they are us. That applies to the Dodger dugout tonight. They're going to walk DeJesus intentionally. Hitting 8th in the lineup. DeJesus is 2nd in the league in getting 3 tickets. Dale Barrett has the most at 18. So in a moment, Steve Carlin, leading 5-1, will be coming up with 2 down and the bases loaded.
And that was a pretty good example of why I would hate to see this rule, and they say, oh, just automatically wave them over there. Beckwith almost threw a strike, and DeJesus was ready, and I have seen guys swing and hit the ball, and I've also seen them attempt to steal it home.
So the bases are loaded. DeJesus at first, Maddox at second, Matthews at third, Lasorda heading for the mound. He has Rick Honeycutt, a left-hander, if he wants to go head-to-head with Steve Carlin. And he has right-hander Pat Zachary. So let's see. Zachary on the left, and of course Honeycutt the left-hander.
Beckwith very animated on the mound as he's explaining what happened.
Wire leaves the mound almost immediately, so it would not appear Lasorda has made any gesture, but you see he's already told Wire with Carlin coming up. He'll bring the left-hander Rick Honeycutt in. So Beckwith came in to pitch to Lescano, and he comes out. The run scored was charged to Royce. He's charged with the 5, and it's 5-1 Philadelphia. Far off in the distant night here in Philadelphia, there are fireworks and a celebration, in fact, a festival that has nothing to do with baseball. It is a German festival, or better yet, a German-American festival, and the president of Germany was here the other day. But the festival of another kind continues here at Veterans Stadium in Philadelphia. And it has been all Philadelphia ever since Gary Matthews hit a 3-run home run with 2 out in the first inning. And the Dodgers bring in their 3rd pitcher, Rick Honeycutt. Honeycutt is asked to get Steve Carlton. And that is a tribute to Carlton's prowess with the bat. And of course, there are those who sit and root and pray. And in this instance, it's Mrs. Carlton. You'd think it was 5-1 the other way, the way she was sweating it out.
Well, Beverly is an anxious person.
0-1. Carlin sacrificed in the 2nd inning and then bounced a single up the middle in the 4th. It was not cashed in as Morgan fouled out to end the inning. 0-1. 1 ball and 1 strike. When the Dodgers batter in the 6th, fingers crossed by Mrs. Carlin, the Dodgers will have Marshall, Yeager, and Landro. So Honeycutt with a big roundhouse curveball. 1-2 to Steve. So he's bitten by his own device. He has struck out 6, so Honeycutt comes in and gives him some of his own medicine, big sweeping curveballs to get him. However, Philadelphia picks up a run on 2 hits and leave 3. And at the end of 5, it has to be a relatively happy Paul Owens. It's Philadelphia 5 and the Dodgers 1.
If she get involved, watch this. Can't you do anything?
Mike Marshall, meanwhile, fouls it away, 0-1. And I am sure that somewhere in Arizona, Audrey Garagiola is saying, I know the feeling.
A million times.
Down in the Philadelphia bullpen, Ron Reed is loosening up. 1-1 to count. Mike Marshall struck out, doubled, and then was picked off second base in the 4th inning. Just missed. There's Ron. 2 balls and 1 strike to count to Marshall. Yeager to follow. And Carlin behind 3-1. Of course, he has the luxury of a 5-1 lead. Phillies scoring 3 in the 1st and 2 in the 5th. Taken all away. 3-2. fly ball to right field. Coming over is Lescano near the track, but he's not on it to handle it. One away.
And for Steve Carlson, that was his 100th pitch. I really believe that 6 innings is what Owens was looking for.
Yeah, because he's got too far to go. 100 pitches with 1 out in the 6th inning. They tell me that John Denny is even stronger than Carlton, but of course he's younger. They say Denny might be the strongest man in the league.
I read that and I asked Denny. He just smiled and he said, "That's paper talk."
I read it too. Strike to Yeager. Yeager popped up and was hit on the toes in the 4th inning. That was when Baker had homered. The Dodgers were trailing 3-1. Marshall doubled. Yeager hit by the pitch, and the Dodgers had the tying runs aboard and nobody out. Landreau tried to bunt the first pitch and missed, and Diaz picked Marshall off second base. And the Dodgers then proceeded to go quietly as Landreau and Thomas struck out. That's the closest the Dodgers have come in the game, and they're now down 5-1. That's in the dirt. One and two the count to Yeager. 1 out, 6th inning. 5 runs, 9 hits for the Phils. 1 run, 5 hits for the Dodgers. Royce, Beckwith, and Honeycutt, and Steve Carlton for Philadelphia. Fastball whacked into left center field. That has a chance to go to the fence, and Maddox cuts it off on the track, and by that time Yeager is into second base anyway. So a 1 out double by Yeager gives the Dodgers 3 doubles and a home run, but only 1 run. And the batter will be Kenny Landreau. Landreau grounded out and struck out. He's hitting less than 200 and has 2 hits in the series. He'll be followed by Darrell Thomas. 0-1. Look at him clench on that big breaking ball. That is really eating him up.
Oh, he's starting the curveball inside and it's just snapping right off. That's as good a curveball as I've seen Carlton have. It's a little tough to hang in there.
1-1. Half swing, fouled it back. 1-2 the count to Landreau. Landreau, like so many hitters, asking the plate umpire, did I swing at a strike?
You throw a curveball and he makes you flinch. Throw one half swing, hits you. This pitch, it's almost like somebody put handcuffs on you and you expect you to hit.
1-2. Big curveball, and down he goes. Well, Landreau 0 for 3, 7 strikeouts for Steve Carlton. Another magnificent performance by the big guy. Take another look.
Way out in front. He swung over it, and even had he made contact, he would not have been able to drive it.
Moto was trying to say to him, if you can't pull that breaking ball, so if you're going to go after it, try to take a shot to left field. But Landreau's just flying open and coming up empty. And here's Darrell Thomas. Singled and struck out, 1 for 2. Of course, in a sense, Joe, when you look at the two benches, you get an idea. Just take right field. The Phils can play Lescano or Lefebvre or Hayes, just to mention 3. And against a left-hander, the Dodgers have to play a kid who's a utility player and a good one, but not a right fielder. So there's a definite difference as far as the decks that are being dealt out from each dugout. 0-1. Breaking ball grounded to Pete Rose, and he'll do it himself. And so Carlton has gone 6 innings. How much more Owens wants out of him remains to be seen. And he gets an ovation from, among others, to no surprise, from his wife. The loudest applause in the place. Phillies 5, Dodgers 1, into 5½. NBC Sport, right on the ball, sending you the championship series, the story of the American League and the National League. And we would certainly be remiss if we didn't express our appreciation to our executive producer, Michael Weissman, producer George Finkel, and director Harry Coyle, and to all of those who have helped bring the 1983 season right to the point, and we're on point right now.
And Mario Charlo, who's been with us for so long, this is his last baseball season, and founder of great Italian restaurants in South Philadelphia.
There's Mario.
There's Mario, the headset on.
How many years, Mario? 25. Wow.
Just think he can go back home now, go in the backyard, dig out all those cans with the money in it.
Here's 40-year-old Joe Morgan, who doesn't believe in hanging them up. Grounded out, flied to right, and fouled out. Little Joe 0 for 3. Honeycutt bouncing one, and the count 1-1. Morgan, Rose, and Schmidt. In the 6th inning, Phillies 5 runs, 9 hits. Dodgers 1 run, 6 hits. Morgan, along with 2 others, are the only National League players to ever win the MVP in back-to-back years. Marshall's out of the play, so Honeycutt has to handle Sack's throw in time. Good play. The other 2 with those credentials are Mike Schmidt and Ernie Banks. 1 away.
Sachs made quite a play, and Vin's been alluding to it. He's been talking about it, that his throwing problems are over. And here's a pretty good example of why you would say that, because Marshall can't get it. Sachs has to get it, wait for Honeycutt, and he throws him the strike. That was a good play.
He has not made a throwing error, Joe, since the 5th of August. So that's a good stretch. Over 2 months, you have to say it's behind him.
And I tell you, be you a baseball fan, you have to root for that kid, because he went through just living hell.
Oh, and now. Here's Pete Rose, who is 2 for 3 tonight, and he's a very big booster of Steve Sachs. They're close pals. Of course, Rose is a big booster of everybody. He has been given 2 of the great gifts. First, good health, and the other, boundless enthusiasm. 1-1. Don't you just love to be around enthusiastic people?
I mean, everything, you know, he comes down on Christmas morning, he knows there's a pony somewhere. It's just not in the house yet.
When he says hello, it'll last you all day.
That's right.
Rose followed by Mike Schmidt. 5-1 Philadelphia in the 6th. 1 ball and 1 strike. Ball 2. The ominous note keeps getting taller and taller. The team that scores first wins. The other ominous note, as far as the Dodgers are concerned, their inability to come from behind. Ground ball to Russell. Over to Marshall. 2 down. For the Dodgers, they have, if memory serves me correctly, 3 come-from-behind games since the middle of July, when they are trailing in the 7th inning. And I realize that doesn't sound like much, but you think about that. From the 7th inning on, Lasorda is almost beaten. One of the 3 victories was perhaps the most important Dodger win of the year, when they came up with 4 in the bottom of the 9th to beat the Braves 7-6. Just like for Philadelphia, perhaps their biggest day, their 11-game winning streak, when they swept the doubleheader, Montreal. Here's Mike Schmidt. Ball 1. Mike is singled, hit into a force play, and doubled. His double got Rose home, and his single came with 2 out in the 1st inning. It was followed by Lescano's single, and that was followed by Matthews' explosion. 2-0.
And Vin, you know, in that 7th, 8th, and 9th inning, Mr. T.L. Holland will be the man that Owen will lean on. And was he ready to pitch when we saw him on the bench?
He was dying from inactivity.
He was mad because I haven't pitched in 3 days. I haven't pitched in 3 days.
The 2-0 pitch. Line drive. Base hit into left field. Mike Schmidt now is really hot. He's hitting .500. 7 for 14. And that's his 3rd hit tonight.
And when he talks about hitting, he can talk to you about the mechanics. He'll tell you that I have the Charlie Lau theory, the Hank Aaron top hand, and the Rose intensity. But the important thing to him is the rhythm. He thinks a hitter has to get in rhythm, that his brain has to get into a flow. Brother, he's in a flow.
And once again, when you look at the season series and then try to apply it to a league championship series, you see it just doesn't matter. The Dodgers won 11 out of 12 from Philadelphia, winning 6 straight at Dodger Stadium, winning 5 out of 6 here. But you look at Philadelphia now, the way they've been playing in this league championship series, you just, not only do you just count it, you can't believe it could have happened. We have an MVP vote, a collective vote here at the end of the year for the series, not for the game, if indeed the series is concluded tonight. 1-1.
Interesting.
And we also have our usual NBC Miller highlight.
Guys that come to mind.
Carlson.
Yes.
Matthews.
Yes.
And Carlson.
No. How about Schmidt? You just
Okay.
talked about him.
Hitting 500.
Yeah, that's not too bad.
Not too shabby.
That's good on the playground.
Yeah. Carlton has 2 victories if he wins tonight. Schmidt is hitting 500, and Matthews has 3 home runs and 8 RBIs. Now, what do you do with the award?
I think you buy a trailer or something.
5-1 Philadelphia, bottom of the 6th inning. Rick Honeycutt, the 3rd Dodger pitcher. Jerry Royce, followed by Joe Beckwith, and then Honeycutt. Mike Schmidt at first, held on by Mike Marshall. And Sixto Lezcano, 1 for 2 at the plate. Breaking ball missed the outside corner, 2-2. Lezcano single to left, lined out to left, and sacrificed. Most importantly was his single to left that extended and prolonged the 1st inning and allowed Gary Matthews to hit a cherry bomb up into the seats. Fouled away. 2-2. 5 runs, 10 hits for Philadelphia. They have left 7. 1 run, 6 hits for the Dodgers. They have left 7. Phillies are red, Dodgers are blue. 6 to beat L.A. The Phillies will 2. There's a great rivalry between these cities in 2 sports. 2-2 pitch. Just missed. Boy, that's a tough pitch to take. So Honeycutt goes 3-2 to Lezcano. And with 2 down, Mike Schmidt will be going from first.
Mike Marshall drops behind him, so Schmidt will be able to get a pretty good lead at first base.
And on deck, Gary Matthews. 8 RBIs. 3 home runs. 3-2. Schmidt goes, and the breaking ball is hammered to left field. That's high and long and gone. Sixto Lezcano. Lezcano had 11 RBIs and 2 home runs against the Dodgers when he was with San Diego. And he brings some firepower to the park tonight with a single and a 2-run home run. And it is now Philadelphia 7 and the Dodgers 1.
He pumps that bat, and he knows when he touches it off. He just kind of jogs, watches it. They want him to come out.
And the batter is Gary Matthews. Lezcano led the Phillies with 24 RBIs against left-hand pitchers. Right. 1-1 to count. 7-11. Well, the Phillies have rolled it tonight. 1 run and 6 hits for the Dodgers. The only run, a home run by Dusty Baker. Fouled away. 1-2. So the Phillies are getting closer and closer to Baltimore. Look at his numbers. One reason why they're on their way. We're World Series. Indeed, as Joe mentioned earlier, there are people outside in sleeping bags waiting to buy tickets for the World Series. Strike on the corner. That'll do it for Gary Matthews. However, Honeycutt gives up a single and a home run with 2 outs. At the end of 6, Phillies 7, Dodgers 1. The Phils get a standing ovation. We'll be right back after these messages from your local station. Philly fanatic in high spirits, top hat and tails and walking cane. And the Phils leading 7-1. Phils make a couple of changes. Greg Gross is now in left field. And on the mound, big Ron Reed trying to finish up for Steve Carlton. 7-1 Philadelphia. Landestor is hitting for Honeycutt. Strike 1. Raphael, a switch hitter, and the count 0-2. So Steve Carlton wins 6 innings, allowed 1 run and 6 hits. Struck out 7, walked 3, hit a batter, and Reed strikes out Landestor. 1 out in the 7th inning. Yesterday, we had 53,490. And there were several thousand empty seats because of the tragedy in the oil spillage and resultant fire. Tonight, I would guess we would have a lot more than 53,000. 1 out, and Steve Sachs. Single to right, fly to left, grounded to short. And Ron Reed, off the campus of Notre Dame, who played basketball with the Detroit Pistons. Great all-around athlete working on Sachs. 0-1.
He has that great relief pitcher's mentality that he's fearless, gets the ball over, and is a practical joker. He comes in, bangs on a dugout. It's a tin dugout, and everybody thought they were inside a bill.
Half swing. He really didn't take a good hard cut at it, and he grounds to DeJesus. So Sachs got cheated on that swing. 2 out in the 7th. And the batter will be Bill Russell. Russell grounded to third, struck out, and walked. It is a long way from the first day of spring training to tonight. The rewards evidently will go to Philadelphia as they lead the Dodgers 7-1. Right. The Dodgers and Phils splitting the 2 at Dodger Stadium. And the Phils trying to win 2 here. A little pop fly back at first. Rose and Lescano, and it will land fair. What a pickup by Lescano. He threw it out to DeJesus. What a play by Sixto. Can't believe he did that. And neither can Russell. How could he short hop that ball?
He slides and short hops it right here. Watch this, and almost like a down and up slide. He comes up, has a fine arm, knows exactly what he has to do. It skips off the artificial surface, and Russell is out. The Phillies are really on the roll. You talk about playing championship baseball, and Russell thinks, what's going on?
What a play by Sixto, and the Phillies lead 7-1 as we go to the bottom of the 7th.
Here's an incredible play by Lescano. How many times have you seen a ball hit that close to the line, not be a 2-base hit? He comes up with it, a slide, and with a good throw. Look at it skip off the artificial surface. And DeJesus, always the man on the spot. Remember, he was the one, as you look at Lescano, who got behind Marshall when Landreau didn't bunt and Diaz threw the ball, and they picked Marshall off. He's in the right spot at the right time. Great play, Ben.
Oh, it had to be a great play. And, of course, Russell is not about to gamble with the Dodgers down 7-1. He was sure he had a lock on a double. And Lescano just made a brilliant play. I also should give a pat on the back, the broad back of John McSherry. His reflexes were so sharp, he would have been decapitated by Lescano's throw. If once he called the ball fair, he didn't duck and get out of the way, because Sixto had big John McSherry in his way, and he really whistled that ball into DeJesus. Magnificent. Here's Gary Maddox now, opening up the bottom of the 7th. 7-1 Philadelphia. Pat Zachary doing the pitching, and the count 2-1.
He stumbled coming off as we look at Bobby Wine and Paul Owen in that little cubby hole there. Pitchers have problems sometimes with the landing area of the other pitcher, and that's what they have to find, is that spot that they have to land.
And here's the chant again. Beat L.A. Beat L.A. It reminds me of a year ago on the final Sunday when the Dodgers were in San Francisco. Atlanta had lost in San Diego, and the San Francisco crowd, with great, almost animalistic fervor, hollering beat L.A., and Morgan hit the 3-run home run to do just that. Line drive at Russell. 1 away.
You're wondering what's going on outside. The people, there's a lot of activity. They're lining up. They've got the barriers set up. They want to have their victory party, and they're also getting ready to buy the World Series tickets.
So with 1 out, Bo Diaz, single to left, grounded to third twice. He's 1 for 3. Right. 7 runs, 11 hits for the Phils. 1 run, 7 hits for the Dodgers. In the bottom of the 7th, 1 away. Diaz made a big contribution in this ballgame way back in the 4th inning when it was still a game, and now he contributes again as he hits it inside third down the line. A fan touched it, so it'll be a ground rule double. Remember, Diaz picked off Mike Marshall in the 4th inning. A very big play at the time.
Guerrero gives it good effort, tries to backhand the ball. It's by him. The artificial surface, he shoots right through.
That's the 3rd time that Diaz hit the ball down to third, and he finally got one by Guerrero. So Bo is 2 for 4. Hit number 1 off Zachary. Hit number 12 for Philadelphia. And DeJesus the batter. And of course, for the Dodgers, they have to think very realistically that you're not going to go very far on 1 run anyway. And that's all they've got. A home run by Dusty Baker has been more a whimper of protest than anything else in the 4th inning. 1-1.
And Vin, should it continue the way it is, the Phillies, the World Series opens on Tuesday. They'll be in pretty good shape with their pitching.
Yeah, because John Denny will be ready to pitch the opener. The Dodger bench, maybe some thoughts of what might have been as Sachs goes out into shallow right. That's the 2nd out of the inning. And the batter will be Greg Gross. Remember, Gross and Reed came into the game at the same time. Gross is hitting 9th. Reed is in Gary Matthews' spot. A runner at second base with 2 out in the 7th inning. Bo Diaz anchored at second, and Gross trying to pick him up. Greg 0 for 4, but a solid 300 hitter throughout his career. And in the month of September, I mean, when they were really down to the nitty-gritty, battling Pittsburgh and Montreal, Gross hit 370 in the dirt. 1 ball and no strikes. And Yeager might have been crossed up. He wants to go out and talk to Zachary.
Sure he was. When you see a catcher jump up like that and go out and talk to his pitcher, that's about what happens. Now, Zachary's having all kinds of problems with the landing area. You see him pointing to it and Yeager looking at it. It'll throw you off balance, and he's going to try to do a little guarding himself.
Yeah, he inherits a spot that has already been chewed up by 5 different pitchers of different sizes. And now suddenly he's trying to find the landing area.
It gets to be a job sometimes. When Al Howland comes in sometimes, it take him 5-10 minutes to get the right spot.
1-0 the count. Bob Welch was saying that this mound, it can't be any higher than any other mound, but apparently it is steeper. It is a deeper fall off from the rubber.
And that can affect you when that happens.
Oh, I guess. Remember in the old days when they would tailor the mounds so that if you had a breaking ball staff, you kind of have a low flat mound. And if you had a fastball staff, it would be like standing up on top of a needle.
And a lot of times in the bullpen, they'd give you nothing. They'd give you a flat mound. You'd warm up there, and you'd come in. You'd think you were pitching on top of a mountain.
Only in the visiting bullpen.
Right.
Yeah. 2-1 to count. Line to right. Thomas is there, and what's that?
He didn't see that ball. He may have lost it in the lights. I really believe he did, because it looked like he had it all away, and then all of a sudden, he thought he'd better get his head out of the way.
So Darryl Thomas spears that bullet. They leave Diaz at second base, and then there are some who just sit and die a little on the inside. At the end of 7, the Phils 7 and the Dodgers 1. In the bottom of the top of the 8th inning, with Philadelphia leading 7-1, Guerrero, Baker, and Marshall against Ron Reed. Interesting, even though the Dodgers switched Guerrero and Baker, trying to put extra pressure on Carlton. The fact that the Dodgers have been unable to beat left-handers all year with any kind of rhythm. They had won only 9 and they lost 21 during the regular season. That's a strike. 1-1. And now 0-2. So their inability to hit and hurt and defeat left-handers has really been a glaring weakness, exploited, of course, by Steve Carlton. And if need be, they will get another further dose of a left-hander. Down in the Philadelphia bullpen is Mr. T, Al Holland. 0-2. There he is, restless from inactivity. Saying before the ball game, I need work. 0-2 the count to Pedro Guerrero. doubled, hit back to the box, and walked in the dirt. You know, Pedro is from a little town in the Dominican Republic. Little in the sense they have about 10,000 people there. It's San Pedro de Macorís. It's hard to believe that from that little town you have Pedro Guerrero, Juan Samuel, Rafael Ramirez, Julio Franco, Toronto shortstop Tony Fernandez, and George Bell. Base hit. They all come from San Pedro de Macorís. So Guerrero singled.
Pete Rose at first base. Telling him he's going to play halfway, but you know he's thinking about, I'm going to be in another World Series. It's been kind of a bitter, tough year at times, but World Series really wipes a lot of bitter memories.
And anything and everything you say about Rose, you can just move the camera over and put it right on Joe Morgan. Here's Dusty Baker with Guerrero at first. Right. Baker walked, homered, and flied to right.
And the same thing you said about Rose, you can say about that little guy, Joe Morgan. And there's a guy on the bench, Tony Perez, who's been to a few of them.
0-1 to Baker. Off-speed breaking ball, 1-1. We're in the top of the 8th. Philadelphia 7 runs, 12 hits. The Dodgers 1 run, 8 hits. Baker followed by Marshall. And Ron Reed finishing up for Steve Carlton, who went 6 innings and allowed just 1 run and 6 hits. Slicing foul off to the right and out of play.
Vin, wouldn't you like to be a little bird and be right next to Charlie Hudson at the World Series? He was out here. We got out here very, very early, about 4 o'clock. He was out running, and we were telling him about, well, last year you were watching in Dallas. He said, I can't believe that I'm standing next to you two fellas. And there he is, and his mama's here and his sister's here, and he's got World Series to look forward to. What a thrill.
For a 24-year-old born in Ennis, Texas, living it up in Philadelphia.
I'll bet he ran the Dallas Cowboys off the papers.
I would think so with that win yesterday. Baker hits a little dunker to right, and that's going to fall for a base hit. Lescano over, and the ball takes a tricky hop on him. All they can do is knock it down, so they're going to send Guerrero home on a bad hop double for Baker. It hit the very edge of the rug where it meets the track, and Lescano was handcuffed by it, understandably so.
When the ball takes the bad hop, it's because it's a bad seamstress in the business, because it hits right on the edge. I say that facetiously, of course, because that's the only way you can do it, at the edge when the warning track, and that warning track, very, very important.
So the Phils leading the Dodgers 7-2 in the 8th inning. Nobody out. Baker at second base with Marshall, Yeager, and Landreau due up. And Yeager has gone back into the dugout for the moment. 0-1 the count to Mike. Marshall has struck out, doubled, and flied to right. 1 for 3. And that's going to be slicing down the line, but it is going to land foul by a foot or so. And John McSherry right there to call it. 0-2. So Baker will go back to second base. 7 runs, 12 hits for the Phils. 2 runs, 9 hits for the Dodgers. And now, and we're a little surprised because you can see the ball hit the seam in right field. They're going to give Lescano an error. So instead of a double, they're going to give it a single to right and an error charged to Sixto.
There's been some tough errors, I'll tell you. That error Maddox got in Los Angeles the other night was a tough one. This is a tough error.
Especially when you can see the bad hop. That's foul. 0-2 to count. However, in all honesty, the world will little note nor long remember what has transpired here. I mean, you pick up the paper and you see the Chinese are setting off nuclear bombs. It puts everything in proper perspective. That kid down there has caught more than the maximum allowed, I think, like fish. And down goes Marshall. So he is now sharing his wealth with nearby fans. Now Rick Monday will come up and bat for Steve Yeager. And Monday will bat for him.
Meanwhile, they're getting ready in the clubhouse. Did you see what Bum Phillips said? I laughed out loud. I loved it when the guy gave him that $100 bottle of champagne. He said, hey, these are my good friends. Give me some fresh stuff. I love it, Bump.
That was a 100-year-old cognac. Give me some credit.
Couple $100.
Sixto's coming out. Von Hayes is going out, and now Paul Owens is coming out, and I think maybe that's going to be off of Ron Reed. You sitting home might think it's over. This crowd of 64,000 might think it's over, but Paul Owens doesn't. He's not taking anything for granted. With Monday coming up, he's going to make a couple of changes. Von Hayes will go into right, Lescano will go to left, and Holland will come in, and Gross will go out. Phillies 7, Dodgers 2.
Joe Garagiola, NBC Sports, another big series, Saturday Night Live, and watch it tonight. The president of entertainment, Brandon Tartikoff, will be the guest host. They'll all be back tonight, that whole crazy group. Saturday Night Live tonight, following your local news. And they'll have a musical guest, John Cougar. A special guest host will be Brandon Tartikoff. They lock up the boss. Now, that's what I call a contract, man.
What's that? Well, now, let's see. Sixto Lescano had been in right field, and they move him over to left field, and Greg Gross comes out. Maddox remains in center. Von Hayes is now in right field, and the new pitcher is left-hander Al Holland. Owens also will make an offensive switch. He brings Hayes and Holland in at the same time, and this time Hayes will bat in the number 5 slot, and Holland will bat 9th. So we have Holland on the mound, Diaz behind the plate, Rose, Morgan, DeJesus, and Schmidt, Lescano, Maddox, and Hayes in the outfield. Interestingly enough, Reed is replaced, leading 7-2, having just struck out Mike Marshall. But by making this switch, Monday is wasted. Monday was announced as the hitter. So Jose Morales is batting for Monday, who is going to bat for Yeager. So Holland will go up against the 3rd most successful pinch hitter in baseball history, Jose Morales. He led the National League in pinch hits 4 times in his career. He had 3 pinch hit home runs. And of course, Mota is the first, then Smokey Burgess and Morales.
The last thing you'll say about Al Holland is that he is a spot pitcher. He rears back and he just fires. He's got a good fastball. It's what got him here, and that's what he'll throw. If he's going to get beat, it'll be on that good fastball.
So we'll see now about Morales as he makes his 2nd appearance. He fouled out in the 9th inning of Game 1. Right. In fact, he faced Holland and batted for Landro and fouled out. Al Holland. 7-2 Philadelphia in the 8th inning. Half swing, it's going to cost him a strike as he loses his helmet. 0-2. Well, Morales batting for Monday. After the All-Star break, Morales suddenly could not buy a hit. And then on August 28th, he came off the bench and got a base hit here in Philadelphia. 0-2. 1 out, 8th inning, 7-2 Phils. Dusty Baker at second base. Fastball, but he just missed the inside corner. Boy, what a job of setting him up, Joe, and then he just missed it.
He's got that good fastball. He was hoping to get it inside and have it break back, catch that inside corner. He just missed. Tough pitch to lay off of.
1-2. Fouled away. Holland is just about 100% left-handed. In everything he does it left-handed, except he bats right-handed. And he gave us a left-handed answer when we asked him, well, why do you bat right-handed? And he said, I don't know.
Well, I tell you, you're left-handed, and that whole conversation sounded like Stengel says hello to Yogi.
1-2. Fouled away, another fastball upstairs. So Holland working on Morales. 1-2 the count. Morales will be followed by Kenny Landro. And Landro has struck out twice, but those 2 Ks were against Steve Carlton. Got him.
It was an off-speed pitch of some kind. After just firing, he just took a little bit off, and Morales is way out in front. It's not what you'd call a great pitch, but anytime you strike somebody out, it's a good pitch.
You know, Carlton had 7 strikeouts. Ron Reed had 2, and now Holland picks up 1. So 10 Dodgers have struck out tonight. Here's Kenny Landreau, grounded out, struck out twice, 0 for 3. Right. Landreau with 2 hits in the series and 1 RBI. The paid attendance tonight, a whopper indeed, 64,494. 0-2. We're in the 8th inning, 2 out, 0-2 to Kenny Landreau. A high-spirited crowd. Holland trying to nail it down. Fastball, pop foul off third. Schmidt coming over, but it's well back out of play.
These Phillies really took a beating with the Wheeze kids and Veterans Stadium being a proper park. I thought Johnny Carson's line last night really said it all, though. He called me old and the restless.
Boy, they are restless. They want to go to Baltimore, and they want to go badly. They're just a couple of outs away. 4 to be exact. 0-2. Check swing and a ground ball to DeJesus. Down he goes. So Holland gets Landreau. The Dodgers get 1 run, 2 hits, leave 1 at the end of 7.5. Phillies 7, Dodgers 2. We're going to the bottom of the 8th inning. Philadelphia leading the Dodgers 7-2. Joe, this is the NBC Miller High Life Player of the Game as opposed to what will become the most valuable player of the series. And I think we agree.
Matthews.
Yeah, the first inning home run by Gary Matthews and the home run he hit yesterday. He has just been something with 8 RBIs. And the big 3 he picked up in the first inning. That was the keynote address for Philadelphia. Ball 1 to Little Joe. So tonight's NBC Miller High Life Player of the Game is Gary Matthews.
That was the man Tom Seaver picked in the first pregame show who could get hot and do it.
He had him. Miller High Life happy to present a check for $1,000 in the name of Gary Matthews to the Special Olympics. Little Joe hitting 067. He has 1 hit. Jack Pimple is the new catcher for the Dodgers. Morgan is 0 for 4 tonight. Off speed for a strike. 2-1. When the Dodgers bat in the 9th inning, and certainly it would appear to be their last hurrah, it would be Darrell Thomas, then a hitter for Zachary and Sachs. The Dodgers have used Landeskog, Monday, Yeager, and a stream of paper out in left field, so timeout until they retrieve it.
Well, Tuesday night, the World Series, McGregor's already been announced for Baltimore, and you've got to be certain it's John Denny.
A reminder, Saturday Night Live tonight following your local news as we tidy up left field. Two balls and 1 strike to count to Little Joe, followed by Pete Rose and Mike Schmidt. Ball 3. 3-1 to Joe. The Phillies scored 3 in the first inning, and that took all the air out of the Dodgers. The home run by Gary Matthews with 2 aboard, and all of it came with 2 out. Schmidt singled, Lescano singled, and Matthews hit it out. Fouled away. The Dodgers got 1 back in the 4th on Dusty Baker's home run, and the Dodgers also in the 4th had runners at first and second and nobody out. So they had the tying runs aboard when Mike Marshall was picked off trying to get a jump on a possible Landreau bunt. But Landreau missed it, and Marshall was hung out to dry. And after that, the Dodgers just saw the game go out of sight as the Phils had back-to-back 2-run innings in the 5th and 6th. The 6th inning, a 2-run blast by Sixto Lescano. So much to the delight of this large crowd, it has been pretty much a laugher for the Phils. 7-2, bottom of the 8th. With Morgan aboard, here's Pete Rose. Rose has flied to center, single to right, and grounded to short. He's 2 for 4 and pops it up. Russell going out to get it. 1 away. And Mike Schmidt coming up. Schmidt's had a big night. 2 singles and a double. It's a little bit of a different role for Schmidt tonight. Twice he was on base when somebody else hit a home run. He was aboard when Matthews homered, and he was aboard when Lescano homered. He's getting ready for Tuesday night. He is 7 for 14, hitting .500 in this league championship series. We told you before that Gary Matthews had tied Dusty Baker for 8 RBIs in a 4-game championship series. Interestingly enough, Schmidt, should he walk or get a base hit, would also, if he goes 7 for 15, he'd wind up hitting .467 in the series, and that would again tie a Dusty Baker record. If he gets a base hit, he'll be out of sight. 0-1.
Dusty Baker's having the kind of a series that Babe Ruth had when Whitey Ford was pitching and breaking all his records, and everybody was doing it. Every time somebody does something, poor Dusty has to take it on the head, and he's taking it right now because they're losing 7-2.
Well, turnabout is fair play. Dusty set the RBI record against Philadelphia in '77, and he set the batting average record against Philadelphia in '78. So they're getting back at him and the Dodgers as Schmidt strikes out. So he leaves tied with Baker at .467. It's a minor point, but we're at that stage as we take another look at the Philadelphia bench, waiting to make a trip to Baltimore. And a Tuesday night date with Scott McGregor.
Scott McGregor and Denny, and then young Hudson, I would imagine, would come back, and then they travel, and here comes Carlton.
Well, here's Lescano. Singled and hit a 2-run home run and bangs his 3rd hit into left field. He's hit the ball hard 4 times. He lined out to left and sacrificed. So he now is 3 for 4. That's what I was saying before, and I'm not taking anything away from Darryl Thomas, but boy, that's a heck of a difference when you can play Lescano or LaFay, and the Dodgers' right-handed bat in the outfield is a defensive man, really, at best, Darryl Thomas. And here's Von Hayes.
That's one of the things that they talk about with the Phillies, make it a very neat box score, a very neat, don't get too many players in there because they can come off that bench.
Von Hayes with 2 out and 2 on. Runners at first and second.
They're just getting their signs together. Obviously no strategy here.
We mentioned once before, Jack Pimple, the Dodger catcher, and Von Hayes were teammates in the Cleveland, Arizona Instructional League. They've both come a long way from those days. That was back in 1980. 4-1. 1-0 to Von. It is 7-2 Philadelphia. We're in the bottom of the 8th inning. Joe Morgan at second, Sixto Lescano at first. Off speed and low. 2-0. Von Hayes came here in a big deal that involved 5 players. The reason they made the deal was last year they had fewer RBIs from left-handed hitters than any other team in the National League. They needed a left-handed hitter desperately. Ball 3. So Pat Zachary is struggling. One more and he loads the bases. And on deck is Gary Maddox. Three and 0 to Vaughn. Right. Hayes had 1 pinch hit appearance in the series and popped up. He batted for DeJesus. Valenzuela game. Went out in the 9th inning against Needham-Pure. 3-1. And he hits a slow roller to Marshall. Zachary's late, but now is under a full head of steam and just did get the bag. Just got a corner. And Zachary late coming off and just did tow it. Take a look.
Here's the replay on it. He's late, but he just, that's not your classic way of making it. Now he does a half gainer.
7-2 Phils at the end of 8. Friends, this telecast presented by authority of Major League Baseball may not be reproduced or retransmitted in any form without the express written consent of Major League Baseball. And in the annals of Major League Baseball, this day, this October the 8th, is very important for those of us who were around to see it and to broadcast it especially. This is the anniversary of Don Larson's perfect game in the no-hitter, 2-0 against the Dodgers in the 1956 World Series. It all took place 27 years ago. And of course, in Philadelphia annals, it figures now to be the date that they clinched the pennant for the 1983 National League season. For the Phils, of course, celebrating their 100th anniversary, things could not be sweeter unless perhaps they win the World Series. So we are expecting pretty much of a vocal explosion from the 64,494. It'll be Darryl Thomas, Candy Maldonado, and Steve Sachs, and Al Holland trying to punch him out. Now back, 0-1. The Phillies, till 1976, had won the pennant only twice, in 1915 and in 1950, the Whiz Kids. They have been first 5 times in the last 8 years. They lost to the Dodgers in 77 and 78. They beat the Astros in 80 and then went on to the championship and won the World Series. And now here they are, 3 outs away from winning the National League pennant and going to Baltimore for the 83 series. Thomas, a single, struck out and grounded out, 1 for 3. Line drive, base hit to left field, and going over to get it is Lescano. Thomas will not stop at first. He'll go into second base with a stand-up double. So the Dodgers a double from Thomas, and that'll bring up Lescano.
While I got a chance, Vinny, tonight is the premiere, the season premiere. Eddie Murphy, Joe Piscopo, the whole gang, they'll be back. The musical guest is John Cougar. The special guest host is president of NBC Entertainment, Brandon Tartikoff. And what they'll do to him, I don't know. I saw one promo where they had him tied up. I tell you, the guest host they get there, if Steve Carlton shows up one night as the guest host, or George Hendrick, I wouldn't be surprised.
I'd be surprised if Carlton.
Maybe together they'd do it.
Maybe so. With Darryl Thomas getting a double, to show you how frustrated the Dodgers are, they have 4 doubles and a home run tonight, 10 hits, and only 2 runs. And here's Candy Maldonado batting for Zachary. Ball 1. 9th inning, 7-2 Philadelphia. The Dodgers kind of twisting and turning in the wind now at this stage. 1-1 to Maldonado. For Lasorda, he's a realist. He knows what odds were left to him now.
He's done an outstanding job. I said it before the series. I think he's done his best managing job this year, and he's got my vote for manager of the year.
I do agree. When you looked at the division champions, Baltimore, Chicago, and Philadelphia, the Dodgers would rate 4th. And they were quite a surprise to get as far as they did get. And for Paul Owens, and for his brain trust, Bobby Wine, Darren Johnson, Dave Bristol, Claude Osteen, Mike Ryan, a magnificent job. Donato comes off the bench to strike out. 2 outs to Baltimore. 11 Dodgers to strike out tonight. And the batter is Steve Sachs. Sack singled in the first inning, and maybe that was an ominous beginning when he prematurely broke for second and Carlton picked him off. Since then, he has flied out and grounded out twice. And the chant begins. Beat L.A. As we mentioned, there have been more World Series games played in Los Angeles since 1974 than in the history of the Phillies franchise. So it is the case of the have-nots finally taking something from the haves. Right, 1-1.
And Vin, while we have a chance and look at Mike Marshall and the Dodger bench, we've been saying congratulations to the Dodgers, to the Phillies. How about those umpires? It's a tough job when the greatest praise you can get is silence, but they haven't had any beefs in this series, and it's a tribute to them.
It sure is. To Lee Wire, Doug Harvey, Jerry Crawford, Terry Tata, Dick Stello, and John McSherry, our heartiest congratulations. 1 out in the ninth, 7-2 Philadelphia. Messrs. Johnson, Owens, and Wine. Nothing fancy. Little smoke on the inside.
Mr. T is like the Mr. T on the A-team. He comes in there and he dots your I's or cross your T's.
There was a fellow I really feel badly about, sitting just to the right of Charlie Hudson. Larry Christensen, who has had 3 arm operations. They did allow him to throw out the first ball, but he's been on the DL most of the year. Great young man. Class, and you just hope that his arm will somehow come back. Little foul ball out of play. And for the Dodgers, of course, you think of Mike Scioscia, who was born in nearby Darby, PA. In fact, it's such a 1 in a million we'll repeat it. The Dodgers have 2 catchers, Mike Scioscia and Jack Pimple, both born in Darby, Pennsylvania, both born in the same hospital. What are the chances of them winding up on a Dodger team playing in Philadelphia? Well, Scioscia's been sidelined. And then, of course, the tragic story of Steve Howe. And that had a great deal to do. Popped up. DeJesus and Schmidt. It'll be Mike Schmidt. 1 out to Baltimore. And they are up and at him now. All 64,494. More paper streamers in center field, so timeout.
Paul Owens, who came down out of the front office, general manager. They fired Pat Corrales. Took it over, and look at that animation.
What made Owens' job so difficult, on July the 18th, Pat Corrales was fired. Owens took over a ball club that was in first place. 1 game over 500. It was as if they had no place to go but up. The Phillies, to show you about a ball club in a state of flux during the year, they made 12 roster moves after the middle of May, and that doesn't count the disabled list. So there was a lot of coming and going, but it was worth it for Philadelphia and to Bill Giles and his ball club. And now 2 out. 1 away from Baltimore, and Bill Russell the batter. Thomas at second. 7-2 Philadelphia. And the crowd on its feet. Over 64,000. Right. And Sack sees a dream slowly disappearing. Popped in the air, foul behind the plate. Diaz coming back. He will not have a play.
You can see the anxiety in the face of the bench. Look at Paul Owens. Oh, and Bobby Wine, they wanted it.
They'll have to wait another moment. Boy, this crowd is really psyched now. They are 1 strike away from Baltimore. The Dodgers acting like they can't believe it. They just stay frozen in the dugout, watching all the excitement and euphoria. The most valuable player of the series is Gary Matthews, Joe. They are showing the festivities in the Philadelphia clubhouse on the Diamond Vision screen in center field. And those Dodgers sitting in the dugout are looking at what's going on in the Philadelphia clubhouse. It's worth more than 1,000 words. Well, it's history here at Veterans Stadium in Philadelphia. Filed a game and a portion of the year away as far as the Dodgers are concerned. Philadelphia 7 runs, 13 hits. The Dodgers 2 runs, 10 hits. The Dodgers never able to recover from a knockout punch that sent them reeling. A 3-run home run by Gary Matthews in the first inning.
They just couldn't do it, and you got to tip your hat to the Phillies. They were a confused team early in the season. They straightened out, and by golly, they got the job done. Now Len Berman is in the Phillies clubhouse, and let's see what's happening, Ben.
All right. Thank you, Joe. I'm with the National League Championship Series most valuable player, Gary Matthews. Congratulations, Sarge.
Thanks a lot. It's been a long time coming, but I tell you, the 11 years I've been playing, it's been worth it. It's been a tough year, but, you know, the main thing that we wanted to do here, and especially in September, and that was the win, and this is what we did, and this is what it's all about, and I just like to say that no matter what, you always have to think win. And when you can think win, everything else takes care of itself.
Well, let's take a look at your 3rd home run of the series. How do you explain the fact that you hit 10 all year long, and here you have 3 home runs, 8 RBIs, just like Tom Seaver called it, right?
Well, you know, during the season, in all fairness, I really wasn't swinging the bat really well, and it was just one of those things where we had to make some changes. And, you know, Pat had me out every now and then, the first manager, but those are one of the things that happens when you're playing during a year, and I'm just glad that we're able to be where we are right now.
Your shirt says, "I am the Sarge," although Vince Scully promoted you to 2nd lieutenant. During the season, you were platoon Sarge. You were a very unhappy ball player.
Well, not really unhappy because we were winning, but, you know, they lay a lot of different names on you, but to win right now, I think it just overrides everything that has happened.
All right. Congratulations,
Thanks
Gary.
a lot.
Way to go.
Appreciate it.
Pete, trying to get Pete Rose. You know, I can tell you one thing as we try to grab Pete or Mike Schmidt. Would you believe that this team is the underdog in the World Series? The first line in from Las Vegas puts up Baltimore as the favorite. Slight favorite, 6.5 to 5. Mike Schmidt, we're on the air live. Okay. Congratulations, another World Series
Thanks a lot.
for you.
Thanks a lot, Lenny. I'd like to, you're Lenny, right? I'm looking for Lenny Matuzak.
Well, whoever, right.
I first of all would like to thank the Lord for making this all possible. I really would. For keeping us healthy and able to enjoy all this, battle right to the end. I'd like to say that the Dodgers battled as hard as they could right on down to the last inning with Darryl Thomas. And I was looking for Lenny Matuzak. I wanted him to come up here, and I wanted to tell you how valuable he was in the month of September. I know Pete didn't play, but Lenny has gone through some hard times in Philadelphia, and if I could find him, I'd like him to come up here and take a bow.
I want to ask you, Mike,
Okay.
when you ripped the management and ripped the manager for all the platooning and all the Russian roulette of all the players, did you think that you'd be standing here tonight, and what was the reaction to all of that?
Well, I really didn't know. I guess the answer to that question is no, I didn't at that point in time, or I wouldn't have said what I said. We had to do some things different. We had, as I've many times said, to get a set lineup, to get some confidence, to get some guys that know their roles. And we did. I think we did, and we got to this point.
Well, congratulations.
It's a heck of a thrill.
Plus, you were the MVP in the '80 World Series, so go for it.
Yeah, okay. I'll do my best.
Congratulations. Chub Feeney, come on up, and Bill Giles, because this is the trophy. Bill Giles, in your second year owning the Phillies, congratulations to you.
I had a sophomore, a pretty good year, I guess.
Right.
But it's a
This is the Warren Giles trophy that he's getting. It's named in honor of his father, and it couldn't go to a nicer guy. Congratulations, Bill, to you and your ball club, all your owners, Paul Owens, and beat the Baltimore Orioles, please.
I just wish my dad was here to see this because he would appreciate it, but it's been a fantastic year, and I love every minute of it. Thank you.
Congratulations to you, Bill. Thank you, Chubb. All right.
Wear it in good health.
From the victorious Philadelphia Philly locker room, let's send you back upstairs to Vin and Joe.
Okay, Len, that is a nice note to see Bill Giles accept the trophy named after his father, who ran the Cincinnati Reds and became the league president of the National League. Nice touch.
Well, and Bill started. He's done everything that you can ask a baseball man to do, worked his way up, and he had some tough decisions to make. And, of course, with the World Series trip in, everything is forgotten.
Oh, sure. You know, an interesting thing, not to cast a shadow on his great performance, but it shows you that the longevity of a major league manager. I just happened to look it up. When Pat Corrales was fired, Gary Matthews was hitting 200 with men in scoring position. So if Matthews had been hitting earlier, it could have been Pat Corrales and not Paul Owens. Fate is very strange, especially in this game of baseball.
Well, you can almost carry it to all sports because the fate of the manager, the coach, is in the hands of other people, and they control it. And Pat Corrales, I'm sure, knowing the kind of a guy he is, hey, those guys, they were my kind of guys. They did it. I wish I were there, but I'm not.
Hey, my man, it was a great first year being with you and the good folks at NBC. Thanks for the ride.
It was a good year.
Loved it. Tonight's game has been brought to you by Miller High Life.